Hello, how are you? Good morning. Welcome to Mending Threads. This is your safe place and stronghold for whole body wellness. We're a transformation series, mind, body, and spirit, and we'll cover many different topics. Please take time, listen between the lines, and listen to what we have. You may respond to us. And remember now, you can go on to Mending Threads Women's Resource Center on YouTube and be able to talk with us and go to our Facebook page right now. Go to our Facebook page and sign up as a subscriber and be able to look at Mending Threads Women's Resource Center. Thank you. I want to welcome our own Reverend Dr. Samuel Massey from Real Life Christian Church, at all times gives us the word of how we can use it and look at all the topics that we introduce from both that not only mind, body, spirit, but look at the real life component of what we're speaking about. And we have with us Nurse Maud, who's a registered nurse, as well as Nurse Atramise. And we're going to be looking at the whole body wellness perspective of the topic of trauma, of adolescence, technology, addiction. Now, it has some things in there, development, and we can listen to what's happening with youth in the area in terms of development, what technology is doing. And then they're even talking about artificial intelligence that's coming through with technology. So we're going to put it all out there this morning. And I'm going to ask Reverend Dr. Samuel Massey if he would then let us know how we're going to start with our topic today.
Well, good morning. Good morning. Welcome, everybody. And I just thank God for being here today. And, we have a lot of counsel out there, and counsel come in the forms of television. It comes in the form of radio, movies. It comes in the form of just being at school around all kinds of people. And so, the Bible says without counsel, people fail, but in the multitude of counsels, there's safety. And because of all the different ways that technology is influencing our adolescent, we need to become aware of the fact that if we don't do anything to curtail this type of thing that's taking over the mind of our children, we'll leave here with a generation of people that will have to take over after us that will not be able to function in the real world. So my thing is teaching our children how to shun evil counsel and have a balance in their life, because they're going to use technology. We're not going to be able to stop that, but we're going to have to teach them how to use it responsibly and teach them in a way where they won't become addicted to it. So I'm starting off with that being said.
With that premise. Well, you've said a lot. You're saying things like action that requires shunning. We want to look at that. You talked about adolescence. And I thought maybe we would start off by looking at this thing that you're saying. Why is this topic so important right today? If we could just maybe address that, why it's so important for adolescents today.
Well, when I
Anybody,
look,
I'm just throwing that out
okay.
to everybody, yes.
Well, I just start off, when we look at the responsibility of parents, the Bible even teaches that train up a child in the way that he should go, that when he's old or when he's mature, he won't depart from that. And we have to also teach our children to honor and respect their parents to the point where they're actually listen to your advice. And
Mm-hmm.
because in Proverbs, it says, "My son, hear the instructions of your father, and do not forsake the law of your mother, for they will be a graceful ornament on your head and chains about your neck." And just in simple words, it will make you beautiful.
So I'm listening to what you're saying, but not, and I'm also, while you're doing that, thinking of all the people who have influence with an adolescent or a youth. And then I'm thinking about the development, the whole time period for adolescence. Can we just talk about why this is so susceptible during this age, this
I,
age period? Mhm.
I would like to say something on that. Um, with the adolescents, with growth and development, adolescents are actually finding themselves. And we with the digital technology that's on the rise, you don't have families that just kind of sit down and talk at the dinner table anymore. They're they sitting in different spaces in the house eating. So if you're not at the table like we used to, that was our time to speak with our parents. We would sit at the dinner table, we pray, and then we would have conversation about how was your day, what did you do, what's going on with you. But if you don't have that, spend that time with your child doing that, if you're sitting there, and even if you're sitting at the table and they're on their phone, it's seldom that you'll see them, the children of today, sitting down talking at the table and interacting with their parents. And as Pastor Massey was saying, honor your parents. So if you got a parent that's not able to even communicate with the child, then you're not getting any significant instruction. It's like a pass by. You're talking at the child, but not really engaging.
Hmm. And according to a lot of the theorists, like Kohlberg for values and everything, and Erickson, they do say that that is the time that children model. Children have tasks that they must learn to complete, and with us not being around, then we really don't. We're not able to give that to them, or they're not able to absorb it or develop it, and then we have to figure out how to introduce it to them. You see, and so I think that that is what you just said is so important. The dinner table was the time of day, for working parents,
Hmm.
particularly a certain time that actually everybody came together and we learned that social skill of communication and values were exchanged. Not that it wasn't any other time, but that's particularly during that time that people learn how to what have conflict, how to do that. But I think Pastor Massey had an addition to what you're speaking about, that it's affecting how children are introducing themselves to the community, or how they're handling problems, or how they, and what I find and I want to throw out there is that I'm amazed that they can only think of one thing at a time. I mean, in other words, the technology is shortening a person's memory. I mean,
Right,
it's a lot of stuff that we have to think about, and we as adults need to learn the technology to create the balance. But the youth do not have an opportunity to learn concept development because of the technology.
Yeah,
right,
and because I can remember the time that we used to memorize phone numbers, and now nobody. You might have maybe one phone number that you memorized, whereas you used to memorize 30 or 40 or even 50 phone numbers. And just like you said, our memory is being affected by
right,
technology because we're depending on technology to lead us and direct us. We used to read maps, and now we just use Google.
Yes.
Speak to Google, and Google will take you where you need to go. So you need to stop and read a map. You don't even learn. You don't even need to learn how to read a map. You don't even have to know what a map is, because we were in a meeting the other day with pastors, and one of the pastors said he mentioned television to his grandson, and they didn't even know what that was
Right.
because they don't use the word television; they use TV. And when he said television, they said, "What is a television?" I don't even know what a television is.
That's so funny you said that. I read this article where this guy was saying that he has a 4 year old, and all that he's always been exposed to is the phone and how you can actually FaceTime on the phone. And the child went to the landline and picked up the landline and put it in his face, thinking that he would be able to see himself.
Right. So it's that, but I think a guy was on the show on Saturday, and he was talking about artificial intelligence and how you didn't have to think, and it's supposed to be the new way of the future.
Yeah.
And so if you could begin to think, and so what I really wanted you all to talk about was the trauma of the technology. What the person sees and how it affects them and whatever. And I wanted to hear about the health of the technology. So I'm throwing that out.
Some of the things that the technology can, some of the negative effects that the technology can cause as far as health psychologically is isolation and depression. There is a bigger problem when people have like an addiction to technology, and they're on their phone or on their computer all the time, going through social media, and they're scrolling and scrolling, and they're comparing themselves with different people, and people are looking like they got all this together, and you really don't have it together. So they're depressed because of the things that they're seeing on social media. And the physical effects that I've seen was the eye strain. If you're on the computer for an extended period of time, a lot of these children, when I was in the pediatric outpatient department, we found that a lot of children had eye problems. They would not be able to see very well because of being
Mhm.
on this what they call blue light screen that affected their vision.
Mhm.
And so you need to, with your children, you're going to need to, they had like this 2020 rule where you stay on if you're on the computer or if you're on the phone or whatever technology you're using, you need to look at it for 20 minutes and then look at something 20 feet away from you
Yes, yes,
to
yes,
get
yes.
your visual uh, acuity back. And the posture, you'll have poor posture sometimes, and it causes neck problems. um, if the child is on the computer for extended period of time and you're not limiting the time that they're on there, it can cause sleep problems. They're not sleeping very well. And
Mhm.
also it can cause obesity because the child is not moving, and everything that they're doing is like at a sitting still, at the computer or on the phone. And what we would encourage is we talk to the parents and let them know, okay, you need to buy them a jump rope, or you need to buy them something where they can go outside and skate or do some type of physical activity so that
Mhm.
children are not obese from just sitting and snacking on food. And the other thing is when they're on the phone or they on the computer, they're snacking, and if they're snacking the wrong kinds of foods. And so this would bring in the diabetes. You have young children, a higher incidence of diabetes in our young people now than we've ever had.
Mhm. Mhm. And so the sitting still. I know that we have some people who are truck drivers online today, And one of the things is that people are not speaking about employment, the job you have, even for young people to pay attention to that, that
Right.
movement and change of your movement or a situation, sitting, standing, of that kind of thing, will have a lot to do with like your thought processes or your health in that kind of way. So the trauma, so there are a lot of traumas, and I wanted to go back to crises, family crises, and how people get involved in technology to even handle crises or traumas that they're experiencing. You know, like when a person experiences death of an individual, say trauma, what I have is I have quite a few patients get involved in ignoring going through the process, using technology to ignore the pain, the emotional pain that they're
Right.
involved in. So I
Right.
would like to you all to kind of talk a little bit about, uh, how addiction can come about through depression or through avoidance of trauma, or how trauma might affect how technology might affect that health wise.
I mean, I can speak to it, but I didn't want to take over the whole
Well,
conversation.
anybody can open that up. Yes, we can share what's helpful. I find is that when people share their personal experiences, and I do want to acknowledge while we're doing it that we have opened it up, and you will get and acknowledge that churches are signing on now, and I'm sending out the letters. You can sign on to do an intergenerational video. Any one family can have a grandparent, an adult, or a youth. You sign on to look at how wisdom building can occur within a church by using different generations and sharing. If a young person was on today, they would help us understand how
Yeah,
important technology is for them. And I'm hoping in the near future we will have some young people to talk about the importance of technology for them, for their peer development. And they talk about depression, that when they can't, and you were alluding to that, saying it, Miss Nurse Atramis, that at that time they're socializing, and when they're comparing themselves to other people, when they can't, young man said today, I don't know how to make friends. I
Hmm.
play games on the computer, but I can't make any friends. I talk to people, but they don't feel like friends.
Hmm.
It's,
yeah, and I guess
yeah.
they are so used to not having to worry about talking to a real person, where they can just text you. They don't have to send them words to you. They don't have to see your face. They can just text you because they text each other sitting right next to each other.
Right.
They don't say anything. They just text each other. You think that they might be texting somebody uh, uh, 5 miles away or somewhere in another city, at a house somewhere, and they're sitting right next to them because we see it in church so much, and we're trying to figure out ways to address that. And I don't know if you all heard about it, but some parents forcibly stop their children from using their technology, and they murdered them. They,
Oh
Mm.
no, I didn't know about that.
yeah, they actually killed them
Mm.
because they, took their phones from them.
Oh, the children. That's right. That's right. Because that's like their spirit, their soul. That's all they have.
So we see that forcibly stopping may cause a withdrawal reaction. It's just like being on drugs. When they take the drugs from the person and trying to force them to stop, they go into a fit or rage. Something happened to them physically to cause a physical problem. Excuse me. And we see that the same thing can happen with technology. They so addicted to it until they can't do without it. You leave your phone at home, you're driving on a trip to go somewhere, and they realize that they've left their phone, and you might be 250 miles down the road, and they're telling you, you got to turn around and go back and get my phone. And they mean
Right.
it. They mean it. You know, you have to stop this car and turn it around and go and get my phone.
Because I can't live without it.
Can't live without it.
And that's when you know that it's an addiction. When your life, when you without it, you cannot live the major part, or it interrupts your regularly living. You
Right.
taking care of your life. And then you know that whatever it is an addiction.
And
And
so,
so
any,
I don't. Mhm.
if any one of you all noticed in any of your children or your grandchildren any type of reactions that happen because of a phone, a game, anything, can any of you all have personal experience where that may affect?
Well, I was talking to someone right before because I was trying to talk to someone that was young that was interacting with people that may have been having some problems. And my son told me that he had an issue where this person was a productive person on the job, but he was also connecting his laptop to his home where he was watching movies on the phone, I mean on the company time. And he did this for extended period of time until he got fired. And this was a person that was electric, I mean a technical, a computer uh
Technician.
technician,
Hmm.
a computer technician. So he had a very good job, and he ended up getting fired because he was so addicted to the movies that he just felt like he had to watch.
Yeah,
Yes.
I saw Maud. You look like you wanted to say something.
Yeah, I want to add on to that because my son, he's an engineer, and it was he's over a certain department, and it was one guy in the department. He the people were tuning in onto him because he had this music that he was playing all the time. And he went to him and he told him, you can't do this on company time. He had such an audience that was tuning in to his music that they were not being productive. And he never really listened to him until he did. He got fired. He had a good job working for Texas Instrument.
But wait a minute. You mean like he was on the job, but he was listening. He didn't have earphones on. You mean so it was just playing around his desk?
I don't know how he was bringing it in on the computer, but he had it all on the computer, and people were tuning in to him, to his music, because
I see.
he had all his stuff lined up that he wanted to listen to, and he was listening to this all day long. The whole while he was supposed to be at work doing work.
Well, that's so true. A young lady was sharing with me that there was security at different places, and she was going to different restaurants or something, and she would see the security instead of the security guard looking around. The security guard is looking at movies on his phone or whatever, and say, pay attention to this as you're going from place to place. People are all into their phone, they're not doing their jobs.
If you go to the grocery store, the cashier at the register, she has her phone right there open. And in between totaling up your stuff. Okay, so if you're getting your credit card out, she turns right back to her phone and she's texting and she's looking at her phone. In between every customer, she has her phone right there using it. And this is at Kroger's, this is at Aldi's. I've seen it at a whole bunch of places that these young people are on their phone. They try to hide it, but some of them just out in the open with it.
So are we talking about a syndrome that's occurring? Are they saying that it started prior to the pandemic? Around that time, it increased and became more intense. The fear of being disconnected, the fear of being alone, the fear of being isolated increased that even to the matter of people take it to the restroom. They when they're walking into Lowe's, if they get out of the car, they got to call somebody and say where they are. And I was sharing with a relative the other day, we went to eat. Before they can eat their food, they got to take a picture. They got to get involved with technology before they can even enjoy their own meal. So it's like there is not a self. In other words, the self is becoming diminished. The
Mm-hmm.
self is like the approval, and you can hear where this is getting ready to go in terms of devastation. The approval of outside must occur. Now I'm throwing this out as a question. I'm not making a statement. It seems that the approval is required prior to enjoyment, or prior to knowing themselves, or prior to accomplishing a task. You must have this engagement and approval. A boyfriend and a girlfriend, they know everything that each other's doing. So the self is becoming diminished.
Mm.
You see, restricted. I'm at Lowe's. I'm getting ready to go into Lowe's. Okay, then bye. See, I'm getting ready to get. Did you get the blah blah blah? So every minute, and I'm just taking note of this. This is interesting
Yeah, and
because I'm older.
yeah,
Now
Yeah.
it's something in that for me to learn.
and they
Okay, and I'm
become
listening to find out what I need to learn in order to what Pastor Massey said, for the individual or the community to bring a balance.
yeah, and they become upset with you if you're not by your phone and using it all the time. Because I mean, I many times I forget my phone because my phone is not me. And so I forget it. I leave it in my car. I leave it at home. I might even leave it on the grocery in the grocery store because that's how much I'm not paying attention to my phone.
Right.
I left it in my cart more than once where I had to go back to the store and find it and get it because I left it. And that's how much I'm not attached to it. Because, see, people feel like you should always be available, and you can't say that you're not available because I know you got your phone.
Yeah.
Yes.
Once they start realizing that they know I don't always have my phone, then they stop getting upset and they start calling my wife because they say he left his phone somewhere and he don't have it. And true enough, I do. Even in the house, my phone might be in the bedroom, or I might be in another room, and I don't hear it ring, so I don't answer it. And then
Well,
there's
to me, it's like you don't know, you don't owe anybody an explanation as to why you didn't answer your phone.
especially if you're not at work.
Right.
Well, when some of the
But it
young
seems
people,
like they need you have. I mean, they get upset if you don't give them an explanation as to why you didn't answer your phone.
Nurse March, you were getting ready to say something to that.
it's some of the young people. It's almost like the commercial they used to have on TV. It's like your phone is like that American Express card. You don't want to stop it. And I've heard my granddaughter when we going on a trip, she'll say, "Okay, I got my charger, I got my cell phone, and I got my credit card. Anything else I left at home, I can live without. Don't worry about nothing else. As long as I got my cell phone and my charger and the credit card, and that's all. They don't worry about nothing else. They say if I left my toothbrush, I can buy another one. If I left some deodorant, I can buy another one. But I'm not gonna travel without my cell phone.
Right. But it could be an advantage,
Yeah.
especially in the healthcare, if we could use the trauma of the addiction, if we could use that positively, if we could train what they call rewiring the brain, if we could train that to begin talking about, like for example, if someone had diabetes, that we could send messages to them during the day, family members, to take care of your food, to report what you're eating, to limit certain things, or to think a certain way if it's depression. You know what I'm saying? So I want to see, as nurses or pastors, how you could really begin to talk about increasing the memory, increasing whatever, even in terms of scriptures. I'm just waiting on something because I cannot remember. I know the information, but God knows I need somebody to help me remember where the scripture is. So, like to hold that in my thoughts and practice it enough to be able to say that. So, what would happen if somebody would text a particular scripture? And I start thinking about that when we're looking at addiction and technology. How could that be positive? Somebody could text, I'm just throwing this out, a scripture, and then look at a problem that a person has, and everybody could report on that scripture all during the week. Wouldn't that be interesting? And then
Hmm.
the person could remember the scripture, because every day that somebody's reporting on the differences, what they did and how they used it, they have to then report the scripture. So I said, you know what, I think I'm going to use that for mental health. I was riding along thinking repetitive things is what a
Hmm.
person needs. Yes.
On Sunday, I mentioned to the church, I was teaching on Proverbs, and I mentioned to the whole church and let them know that Proverbs is really the key to knowing how to live your life.
Mm-hmm.
I issued a challenge for them to read at least one chapter of Proverbs every day. And by the end of a month, you will have read the whole book.
Mm-hmm.
Also, the challenge was for them to memorize at least one verse of scripture from each each chapter, and then tell it to somebody. And see, and I know that a lot of times when you tell people to do certain things, more than likely, most of them won't do it. They just won't do it. And because it's not a habit. And saying what you're trying to do is trying to help them create another habit, something different
Right.
from what they do every day. Break
Mm-hmm.
away from what they always do all the time and give them a challenge to do something else.
Hmm.
And without saying, I'm trying to keep you off your phone. Because, see, that's a negative. If you start telling them that you're trying to really keep them off their phone so much, then
Mm-hmm.
they'll probably get upset and not do anything. But if
Mm-hmm.
you issue it as a challenge and cause them to start doing something else, and then, I thought about it, I haven't really presented it yet, but create a reward system where you would say, okay, you just say it, like me, I would have to just say it. Okay, I asked everybody to read a chapter of Proverbs every day. How many of y'all did it? And then if somebody raised their hand and said, well, I did one, and somebody said, well, I did two, and I didn't do them all. And then so I just pick out and say, well, can anybody that did it quote a verse of scripture that they memorized? And then whoever stand up, I said, now you're gonna have to give it exactly and precisely the way you memorize it. And if they get up and do it, you give them a big bill, like, okay, come and get this $50 bill.
Yes, 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 yes. Uh-huh.
All of them say, "Ooh,
Yeah, like at the end of the month.
I
Like at the
just
end of the month.
the
Yes,
bill.
yes.
I know mine now. I know mine." Not children now. I know it now. No.
Well, so in terms of the addiction, that would help. So they would have to tell. So another one would be to remove a person from addiction would be that they would have to have a person that they like not a mentor, but a commitment partner, that they would have to share all of their scriptures too. And that
Right.
person would have to say that, but not
Team,
only
team
scriptures.
them up together.
Yes, yes.
And
And
so
then,
instead of texting foolishness, they would be texting, like you said, texting scriptures and then showing that they memorize it by writing it down in a text.
and
Even
by
though
telling,
he's
that
saying it,
would get them away from the technology
FaceTime each other and do it. Talk about it. Get them doing something positive with
with it.
something that they're going to do anyway.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So creating, using your creative imagination to try to come up with ways to create deliverance,
Yes.
you say, from the power and effect of sin,
Mhm.
because basically it turns into a sin when you are just
Mhm.
doing all this crazy stuff on your phone, because
Yeah.
it's created from
Yeah,
So
that.
it
because
becomes
it's
a
always something behind the addiction. It's not like they get addicted to the phone and addicted to the technology if they have a healthy state of mind. A
Right.
lot of times they have underlying things that they are dealing with and they're trying to escape from that by
Mhm.
getting engaged in this negative behavior. And an
Mhm.
example of that is maybe a teen that wants to date and they're on the phone uh, texting and receiving messages from someone that may not even be a teen, and
Right.
they end up
Mhm.
in this unhealthy relationship and going to a home of somebody that might uh, rape them or keep them hostage or do something evil to them.
And
So
that's the
yeah.
trauma part. The trauma part of it is that trying to move away from something that's so hurtful that you use technology to do that, by either by being violated by the technology, but by even just the thoughts that we have. Like I had a lady the other day was talking about how her, or was it this morning? I think even, well, it was one yesterday and one today. How her father was so abusive, and the father would actually beat the mother and the children, but was not as hard on the son. So it was interesting because the dynamics are within the family and with this person, that they are having similar difficulty with people that they encounter and being misunderstood by just social friends, and have no idea that that trauma has something to do with moving away, or the type of people you bring into your life and comparing yourself with on technology or across the waves, or in many different situations, you see. And so the trauma, some people think it has to be right there with them, but trauma is something that affects us even when the situation is no longer there.
Right.
It's still impacting, as you just said, that it can bring on depression. Nurse Maud was talking about her son, and I wanted to ask more about that. What happened to him, like afterward, for all of that to happen and him not to have a direct alignment with doing something, or motivation to do something. It must have really affected him emotionally, after all of that happened. And so all of that was around technology. That's the trauma of it. Okay, now something else is going to happen, because if the trauma is not dealt with, then he's going to push the trauma down, and then something else is going to occur. So I don't know if you feel comfortable talking about behaviors associated with something like that.
Well, he wasn't the person. He was a manager of this person who was continually, even after he came to him more than once about the behavior, and that he never changed. He continued on. I don't know what happened to him
You don't know what
afterward.
happened.
They let him go from the company. Yeah.
But
So
even
they
your son, in terms of having to let him go or telling him
very
about it,
much.
it had to have impacted him.
Yes, it did impact him because he said he knew the guy for a long time. He knew the guy had a family, to support, and then to be separated from your job. And so now you've been here all these years and you can't even use this job as a reference, because you got terminated from. And then a lot of time people look at it as, oh well, he could go get unemployment. No, you can't. It's according to what they fire you for. You're not eligible for it. If it's something to do with your conduct, you're not gonna get no unemployment. So now I don't know. I have a friend whose daughter is a nurse, and she got into trouble, and they she got arrested and went to jail. And she's afraid, she don't want to admit, because they said if she admit the the crime that she committed, that she wouldn't have to serve any jail time. It would be like probationary or something. But she said she didn't want to admit it because that would say that she was guilty of it, and she just didn't want to do that. So now she couldn't even work as a nurse anymore because she couldn't even renew her license because she couldn't on the now you have to do background checks, and they do finger checks, prints and stuff. You used to could just answer yes or no to a question, but no, you can't anymore. So it tech I mean, just the idea that she was so infatuated with the technology and the people, even though people see stuff on the social media, it's not always true. People put stuff up, and you think they're buying all these high-end products and stuff. No, they're just putting that up. And then they got these other people now that's following them, these influencers that's making all kind of money because they got thousands of people following them. People are making a career out of that, and these people are
Yes.
addicted to it. And it's like it's just going in all different directions. It's not really good for the young people anymore because they really, they look into that social media stuff, and that's all that stuff is not true on social media. You have to
And
know it's true.
you mean like leading them into, can lead them into some difficulties, influence the way that they think, and not checking it out for themselves or with other
Yes.
people.
Right.
The believability of everything, the desire. So they used to call that sometimes our needs make us vulnerable and kind of gullible to certain kinds of things. So I'm finding that, or one thing that I'm finding is fear of failure is so high attached to this um, putting yourself out there. Like you have to do one better than the person who was there. It's like a fear. You have to spend a lot of time in influencing or being better than someone else. So, in other words, you're not looking at your own standard, what you believe in, blah, blah, blah. It is just about doing something different, better than the person that you saw on there yesterday for the same thing. My dress is better. So I'm looking at these dances. So they're on and they're doing all of these weird dances and whatever. But it is, what do they call them? It's a reel. So your reel has to be better than your friend's reel. So you do a dance and you publish it. Well, when your friend comes on, so what's happening is the people are becoming more violating of their own standards. So I saw this lady doing this kind of like nude dance almost. Okay, she was just this young girl was doing this like nude dance. She was doing a dance and she only had these two little pieces of fabric on her. Well, she started out a different way, her reels, but in order to beat out her colleagues, her friends, she ended up having to have on little two pieces of fabric. That's how it ended up. Okay. And what it is I'm seeing her now as a patient. She had no idea that she would end up doing that. She gravitated toward it over a period of time. And now she's into shame and depression, you see. And so now having to move back and create a whole identity and sense of herself, you see.
Right.
So that's another form of how technology can really affect an individual. So I
Right.
wanted to know if Pastor Massey, if you could address, sometimes it's like what you were talking about, when a person is doing that, when you say give a person information, you have a scripture or sermon or something you would put, what would you say to an individual who is now addicted? How would you, and I know you have a class over there that's related to recovery. How
Yes,
would you
celebrate
actually,
recovery.
yeah, celebrate recovery? How would you actually include this topic into the recovery program that you have? And I know you're going to be doing soon you'll be doing the Battering program, and over Houston, and um, with the Women's Resource Center. And I want to see how you would thought about, if you have, how you would use this the trauma and this technology recovery in Celebrate Recovery.
Well, basically, you would, because Celebrate Recovery deals with hurts, hang-ups, and habits. And so anything can be a habit. It could be a good habit and it could be a bad habit. And see, you have the habit when it takes over you. It's just like playing a game. Sometimes we play games to kill time when we're traveling on an airplane, waiting for a doctor's appointment. We do something to make waiting not appear to be waiting, you know,
Mhm.
or not appear to be long. But when after you do that and then you go home and you get on your computer and you keep doing that, and when you lying down in your bed and you keep doing that, and when you go to the restroom, you keep doing that, and you eating at the dinner table and you keep doing that, you know that it's an addiction. And even, myself, I like to play dominoes, I like to play cards, things like that, but then you can do it online. And I think one time I was just playing dominoes a lot online. And I noticed that it was making me late for something that was important.
Mhm.
It was making me unprepared for things that I need to be prepared for. And I said, this right here is a habit that I need to break. And I'm not going to break it by saying I'm going to do it a little bit and I'm not going to do it anymore. I am completely stopping. I stopped doing it totally. I never did it again. To this day, I never did it again. I said, because it gets out of control. It
Mhm.
start taking away valuable time. It start causing you not to be ready to go on time. It start causing you a lot of problems in your life that this is the wrong thing to be doing.
Mhm.
So what you would have to do is help the person to realize that it really is an addiction or a habit that need to be broken. But you first have to get them to the point of helping them see that it really is causing you a problem in life. And if they actually will honor you, because when the scriptures say honor your mother and father, that's also honoring your elders.
Mhm.
They honor you and respect you to listen to you, then they will open up you could actually open up their understanding to help them to realize that no, I'm not trying to stop you from having fun. I'm not trying to stop you from using your phone, but I'm trying to keep you safe mentally. I'm trying to help you realize, know, and understand that this is actually a habit that needs to be
Mm-hmm.
broken.
Mm-hmm.
And if you get them to the point where they know this, then you have to open up the door to other options in place of it. And like I was talking to my son this morning, and I was asking him, I said, what can be done to just keep you from using your phone? And he said, well, I need to have other hobbies in my life. I need to have some type of job.
Mm-hmm.
I need to be doing some work. He said this. And then I need to sleep and I need to rest.
Mm-hmm.
And then I need to be made to put the phone down at least 30 minutes before it's time for me to go to bed. He said all of that and then, I added to that, and you need to be scheduled some exercises to do. You have to talk with your children, and this, like this is what you can do with an adolescent. But
Mm-hmm.
with adults, you might have to be saying something else to them,
Mm-hmm.
especially on a spiritual level, to
Mm-hmm.
get them to veer away from, because a lot of adults do the same thing as the children do.
Yes.
Because they see their parents doing the same thing, uh, they feel like it's all right,
Mm-hmm.
because the parents feel like it's all right.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And when you open it up, to the whole church, you have to open it up in a way where parents, you all are out of line, and that's why your children are out of line. And
That's
so
true.
all of us as a team need to work together to deal with this issue. And
Mm-hmm.
so that's the way, I see it, I understand it, I know it needs to be
Mm-hmm.
dealt with, and we can't put it off. We need to deal with it.
And I think maybe sometimes, like you asked your son, I think asking them what's important to them and where they're trying to go, and so they can see how this and their stand in their way. Like when you're looking at the phone, how many friends do you contact? Do you actually talk to your friends? How many people really consider you close to them?
Right,
What, like you said, what hobbies do you have away from the TV or away from the phone? What do you do that's enjoyable? How is your health? So, like, do you have any pains or blah blah blah? When you get through and you look at it, then you can see how everything is associated with that. And there's some things that parents, I think that sometimes in our organizations and our churches, particularly when we're using value systems and belief building, that we don't talk about practical things like, if you're going to honor your parents and if you're going to talk to them, how can you have the telephone at the dinner table?
Mm-hmm.
Should be a basket there. Even in the church, when you're communing in the church, there should be no phones on the table.
right,
You see, so whatever we teach or we should practice in our congregations, exactly what we're teaching. And
right,
Mm-hmm.
then the parents would then be able to do that. And then on the opposite end, we should have some way of celebrating their creativity with technology,
right,
so they can see that it is how to manage it, how
Mm-hmm.
to handle trauma, how to um, engage in dialogue with situations. That's
Mm-hmm.
the key. So I was just
Yeah,
kind
I'm
of.
I'm glad you said that because I know technology is here to stay. So
Mhm.
we need to encourage healthy use of the phone, healthy use of the computer, healthy use of any devices that you have to let them know that we're not against it. We want you to use it in a healthy way so it can be a so you can be productive in
right,
life and not cause you to be unproductive because you overuse
right.
or negative use of the devices.
Because I noticed that some children can't even read because they stay on their phone so much.
Right.
Yes.
And it happens in the church. You call on somebody to read, and you see that they're stumbling.
Mm-hmm.
They can't even read simple words,
Right.
and when you ask them to read, they don't even want to read
Right.
because they know that they
That
don't
they
know
can't read.
words, that they can't recognize just little simple words.
Right.
So those are the kind of things that need to be brought to their attention.
Right.
You can't even really read because you're on this phone.
So,
You know,
Pastor Massey, you just made me think. Wouldn't that be a wonderful thing? I used to do church school superintendent and teaching, and one of the things that popped in my mind then wouldn't it be wonderful if they couldn't read, if we had a, where they could do the voice technology system, where they could read, they could have the lesson said to them, like scripture, where they could bring it up. If they couldn't read it, they could say the word stumbling, and then the voice would tell them the
but
way it should sound.
That's correct.
They have this program. Now, that would be a wonderful thing for those persons who want to improve their
They're
reading,
yeah,
hmm especially of certain things that we're trying to teach. hmm
yeah.
mm,
I know we've been talking and talking. We are really, I bet you we could really come up with some things. So I was just going to say we could throw out a few comments about what parents could do or what we could do as individuals or congregations. Just maybe one or two each going forward is what we could do to use this topic of trauma and technology addiction.
Well, one of the things that we are doing, and it's good that one of the parents kind of brought it up, is vacation Bible school. With that, your phone can't be a part of that.
hmm
You'll really be taken away from your phone, and you'll be doing something else. And that's, the idea came, and it was sold on the staff that they would be willing to put it together. And it kind of gave me a good feeling because the ones that you really think that need it brought up the idea.
Okay. Oh, wow.
And
Uh-huh.
so to me, that was a good thing. And to
mm-hmm,
me, you really want to do it if they see that it's a need to
mm-hmm.
do
Yes.
it. You
Right.
really want to do it. And so even if you don't feel like doing it, you need to do it anyway. And
Right.
so
Okay.
that's just one thing that you could do in church,
Mm-hmm.
vacation Bible school, and then other things that we can get involved in because we also have a movie night, at church. Well, they wouldn't really be on their phones, but they would actually be watching a movie, but we make it a movie where it'll be a productive movie, not just a fun movie, but it'll be something that's teaching them
Yes.
uh, spiritual values while watching this movie and give them something else to talk about versus just talking about anything.
Right.
So I just wanted to throw that
So,
out.
Nurse Ma, do you want to leave us with an idea about what we could do as parents or teachers or medical profession or anything in terms of technology and trauma?
Well, one important point that Pastor Massey brought up was the suggestions from his son,
I
who
can't really hear. It must be me.
the
No,
one of the
we
things
can't
that
hear.
Pastor Massey brought up. I don't know how I didn't do anything to my
Okay. It just went down.
okay, but one of the things that he brought up was the suggestions from his son, all the things to healthy habits to help him to get away from relying on the phone. And one of them was being able to get enough sleep at night, taking 30 minutes before your sleep time. Because here, my daughter at a certain time of night at 9 o'clock, everybody in this house is asleep. So they bring their phones downstairs. Then make sure that they're not going to use it so they're not distracted during the night because the beeping and the buzzing from the phone interrupts, your sleep. So if
They're
you have a
flagging
good,
me that our time is up. But listen, so
Okay.
that's a good point right there that helps with the sleep. Miss Atramis, could you quickly give us just something that we'll leave the people with?
I would just wanted to just tag onto what Pastor Massey was saying about the vacation Bible school. What we found out in those families that we knew that really needed that, we found out they have some really good skills, and one of them was really good with making our outline, and she did it on the computer, and she sent it to our email, and she was very good in setting everything up. She set up
Hmm.
the flyer, and she sent the flyers out to us,
Oh,
and it
that's
was a
good.
beautiful flyer. They had somebody that knew how to make t-shirts. They got the t-shirts
See,
together.
that's what I'm talking about.
They're
Mhm.
very creative, and they're young, and they're very creative. So we're using their skills in a positive way, and that's really good that he
Good.
approved that.
Okay, I like that. That's really good. So you were bringing a balance to everything. I want to thank all of you this morning for sharing, your time, your knowledge with the community, your skills and everything. And also, some people don't think about it, but your quest um, for ingenuity, your quest for moving forward. This is what, and Reverend Dr. Samuel Massey, thank you from Real Life Christian Church for being the co-host today. I want to thank everybody on our Facebook friends that are there, and please go to Mending Threads Women's Resource Center on YouTube and subscribe. Okay, and as well as our website, wrc-houston.com. Please sign up to be a mental health coach. Coming in the future, we'll be in the community doing more work, and we'll have our peer-to-peer training. And we look forward to talking with you. We'll be doing life, a group called Doing Life, looking at boundaries and belief building, and I'm excited about that. And we'll also have our battering intervention prevention program upgoing the end of August. Okay, and I'm going to look forward to that. Thank you for being here. I want to just say this: renew beliefs, rebuild faith, and reconnect families and communities. For it's not the circumstances we meet, it is the manner in which we respond that determines health, happiness, and success. Thank you for being here. Look forward to seeing you same time, same place, same station next week. Thank you now. Bye bye.
Well,
So,